Happy Saturday and happy Black History Month. My name is Sean Shaw and this is Vanguards of Democracy. Today we've invited two guests who stand out for their commitment to educating Tampa Bay. Celeste Roberts will be joining us to share the latest from the youth development institution that she herself co-founded, the Skills Center, which specializes in character building and structured learning through athletics. It's an amazing program. But first, I'm here with Ernest Hooper to talk about his extensive career in journalism with the Tampa Bay Times and how he was able to translate that passion for reaching our community into his new career as Vice President of Communications for United Way Suncoast. That conversation starts right now, so stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Vanguards of Democracy with your host, myself, Sean Shaw. Thank you for joining us. But I'm joined here with a legend here in the Tampa Bay community, and that's Ernest Hooper, affectionately known as Hoop. And everybody knows Ernest because of his not only just being present in the community, but his time with the Tampa Bay Times newspaper and just being the MC and the questioner for all things that happen in the community. Ernest, thank you for joining us this morning, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be here, Sean. Thanks for having me.
No, of course, we're going to get into some other stuff at the end, but I want to just ask what you're doing now. What is your, I know you left the Times a while ago, but what are you doing now? Where are you at? Where can we find you doing good things?
Well, I'm the VP of Communications for United Way Suncoast. And, you know, our mission every day is to elevate families and community members and help them get on a path, a more successful path, and give them the freedom to rise. And so my primary role is to be the chief storyteller and to try to tell the story of the different things that we're doing. And it's still storytelling like I did at the Tampa Bay Times. It's just on a different platform and a different mission.
I don't think they could have a better storyteller than you. So kudos for them for recognizing that. I want to get into some specific. I've always appreciated the United Way. I like organizations that are trying to get at the root of the problems we have here rather than the Band-Aids. And it's sometimes easier for the Band-Aids. And it is much harder to get at the root of some of the issues in the community. That's why I've always appreciated the United Way and what they're doing. But I want to talk about a couple of your programs at a minimum, and you can talk about others if you want, but I definitely want to talk about the volunteer income tax program because tax season is coming up. And the older I get, the more I realize I can't rely on H&R Block all the time. So I have to get my taxes. I have to get a professional to do them. But people need help with their taxes and people need help knowing how to navigate that. And I know you've got the United Way has some ability to do that. So talk a little bit about that program.
Yeah, we have a volunteer income tax assistance program. And what we do for low and moderate income homes is prepare their taxes for free. And it's really important. We've done this for several years, but it's really important for people to take advantage of this service this year. Sean, as you know, in 2021, the federal government had a pilot program where eligible residents received child tax credits on a monthly basis. There were also some COVID relief dollars that went out, and all of that has to be accounted on your tax return, and you have to get the amount right. And there may be some of our community members who aren't sure about how to go about that, and our tax preparers can help them with that and make sure that they file a return that's correct the first time, and that will speed up the process of getting their money back. In 2021, we helped return nearly $11 million back to our 5-county region through our VITA program. So we're really proud of it.
Who are the professionals that are doing the tax returns?
They're volunteers. Many of them are retired accountants or retired bookkeepers, but that's not a prerequisite. All of these volunteers have been trained by us through the Internal Revenue Service. And the interesting thing, I've spoken to some of our volunteers, they enjoy this, Sean. They like doing tax returns. And the volunteers who have been at this for a while, they have favorite customers. They have community members who come back to them year after year because they've done such a good job.
Yes, I mean, when it's similar to pro bono legal services you would do through certain organizations, and you're right, it's the enjoyment. You just get a different satisfaction level from doing that and helping people than sometimes you do from your other work. So I'm glad. I wanted to just make sure I highlighted that those are volunteer people in the community doing it. What about the eviction defense issue? That has been one that has been in the news a lot. That's one that the president himself has extended that program because, in the height of the pandemic, people's rent still got to be paid. People still want their rent checks, and your ability to get those rent checks to your landlord has been hampered somewhat by the employment situation and the conditions of the pandemic. And I know you all are doing some things to help with that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have what we call an eviction mitigation program. And we have devoted $3 million toward addressing the issue. And there are several different aspects of the issue that we're seeking to address with the help of our strategic community partners, in particular, legal aid nonprofits such as Bay Area Legal, Gulf Coast Legal, and Community Justice in Pinellas. So we're working with those groups, and one of the key things we're doing is funding rental navigators, Sean. What we've learned is that there are, in most of our 5-county region, there are federal dollars that can be used for emergency rental assistance, but it's difficult to access those dollars. The forms you have to fill out are complicated. So we are funding the hiring and training of rental navigators to help community members who have fallen behind on their rent get access to these emergency rental assistance dollars. In some instances, for those who may not qualify for the ERA, we are working with our strategic community partners to help give them some temporary financial relief. We're also trying to raise awareness of this issue. We're advocating about it in Tallahassee to try to get some laws changed to help people who have fallen behind on their rent or who may have even been evicted from their home. So it's a comprehensive approach that we're using, and we're enjoying some success.
Obviously, we'll talk about this a little more, but I'm glad it's a comprehensive strategy. Let me say that, because anything relying on Tallahassee to do anything good is a losing proposition, in my opinion. But that's something that is different. Well, that's a different podcast. But this is again, it's one of the reasons I love the United Way. It's not just talking about it, not just doing roundtables about it, not just doing commissions about it. It's helping people stay in their living quarters, and that's really important in this time. Let's shift a little bit. Actually, I want you to talk about any other program, with the United Way that you think is something you want to highlight right now before we get into the opinion part of this interview.
Yeah, well, let me just give you a quick overview. At United Way Suncoast, we seek to help ALICE families. ALICE is an acronym for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. These are working families, working parents, many of them who have kids and are one unexpected expense away from dire straits, Sean. One auto repair, one medical bill, emergency medical bill that they didn't expect to pay. They're living so close to the margins that any unexpected expense can send them reeling. So we're trying to help them, and we have a three-pronged approach. We focus on early learning, youth success, and financial stability. You talked before about getting to the root of the problem, where early learning is the root of the problem. So we are working in all 5 of our counties to improve access to childcare and to help more children be ready to learn when they arrive in kindergarten. Right now, only about 53% of kids who arrive at a kindergarten class on the first day have had the pre-K training and are equipped with the education tools to begin learning on a level pace. So we're working to help parents understand that they are the first teachers of their children. We are lending support through our quality childcare initiative to different childcare centers and looking to expand that in 2022. And, we're also working to help kids get caught up so they're reading on grade level by the 3rd grade, which is another important component of this. 3rd grade is when you go from learning to read to reading to learn. And if you're reading on level by the end of 3rd grade, you're more likely to graduate from high school. You're more likely to go on to post-secondary opportunities. You're more likely to avoid committing a serious crime. You're more likely to avoid childhood obesity. There's a whole slate of positives that can come when we have our kids ready to learn. So that's a big part of our focus. Youth success is about helping propel those middle school and high school kids and put them on a path to post-secondary opportunities. And of course, financial stability involves a range of programs that we have with our strategic community partners, including VITA, which we already talked about. We do some financial coaching. We have a program called Bank on Suncoast, which seeks to get the unbanked and the underbanked accounts that are designed specifically for them. There's not overdraft charges. They're not bounce check charges. So, Sean, we take it for granted that most people have a bank account, but we find that a lot of people don't. And they're walking around they're cashing their checks and walking around with huge wads of money in their pocket. That's not safe. And that's not a step towards saving money and creating financial stability. So we're working on all of those things. We believe it's a great approach. And then we also look to address the immediate needs like the eviction crisis. And we look to do it with the help of partners and with the help of the community. We don't walk alone at United Way Suncoast. We're always trying to convene and get the entire community to rally around these issues.
No, again, they couldn't ask for a better storyteller than you. You just showed why. And I'm so happy that you were there. You mentioned 2 things that I want to follow up on, or maybe I'll just comment on. The third, the data around 3rd grade status and what that means for a child is fascinating, because you said it. It is, everything flows from where you're at in 3rd grade and what's going on in 3rd grade. Your future, and you don't even really know it unless you look at the data and you see a child that is reading at the right level and doing what they're doing. Everything changes for them, but then the opposite also happens. And so that focus on early childhood is so important, because it leads to such other things. And the unbanked issue you just brought up is one that I was in my own privilege and didn't realize that issue till I was in Tallahassee and we were debating a certain topic. And I began to get calls and emails and visits from people who essentially kind of, if I got a flat tire and it is a week before payday and it is after banking hours, what are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do? And I had not even, because you just go to the ATM. No, because everyone can't get a bank account. Everyone doesn't have the ability to do. And it's just one it was a learning experience. And that's a lot of what politics ought to be. But it was a learning experience that, man, there's a huge swath of people who are unable to be at a bank, be at a credit union, be at any of these things. And a lot of us didn't realize that. And when you're passing laws and doing things and you just assume everybody can have a bank account, it's not that way. And so
right.
I'm glad that you talked about that and you're doing something about that, because it is one, particularly in certain segments of this, the town, people, there's just that scenario. I got a flat tire and it ain't payday. And that becomes an almost insurmountable obstacle, because now if the car doesn't get fixed, guess what? Now I can't go to work. And that just exacerbates the issue.
Yep. And then, they're at risk of losing their job if they don't show up for 2 or 3 days. Right. Again, that privilege that we have, we can work from home, or we can call in and say, hey, I'm having an issue. Can I take some PTO? But not every company offers their employees that kind of support. And if they lose their job, then it just becomes a downward spiral, Sean. Then it's just everything is kind of collapsing around.
Off a flat tire and off an inability to access that money. It's really a bigger problem than people think. Let's get into a little opinion here, Ernest. First, I want to say, what's the transition been like since from the Times to the United Way? How you handling it? How you doing? How's it going for you?
Well, it's going really well. So I left the Times after 27 years in November of 2019, and I first started with the American Cancer Society, and I got to give them a shout out because they gave me that opportunity to transition into a public relations role. And so I was there for 15 months. And then this opportunity with United Way Suncoast came available. And for a number of reasons, I felt like it kind of better suited my skill set and the things I can bring in terms of my network and my affiliations in the community. So both of those jobs have been terrific. A lot of people like to ask, do you miss writing for the Times? I love my role that I'm in now, but I'll confess, sometimes I have dreams about being back at the paper and trying to write a story. It's really weird. I can't explain it. And they're weird dreams, like
you did it for 20 some years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still a part of me. And I think in particular, when there are major issues happening in the community or in the nation, I get a hankering to want to write about it and to try to shape opinion, as I did for so many years at the Times. When in the wake of George Floyd's death, I kept thinking, wow, if I still have my platform, this would be a great opportunity for me to try to frame what we witness and what it means and what it should mean. But all along, I've tried to help people, whether I was at the Times or at the Cancer Society or at United Way Suncoast. I've tried to be a valued part of the community, and that continues. And that's the thread that connects all of those positions.
I always loved your writing because it was so rational. And it was kind of it just made sense. And it wasn't, it didn't get into the places where sometimes you can inflame one side or the other. I thought you were always right down the middle and made sense. And that's hard to do. Particularly, it's getting harder to do during these times because no one wants to hear that. Yes. No one wants to hear it. Everyone wants the crazy on both sides. And
I always tell people the best columns I wrote were the columns where neither side or both sides were upset.
Yep.
That to me was a win because, my job wasn't my job at the Times wasn't to write to be popular. My job was to provoke thought. And when I got both sides, if both sides felt like I had angered them, I knew that I had connected with them and I had made them think and I had struck an emotional chord. And, that's the goal. Hey, think about this situation. Look at this situation. Think about your own actions and look in the mirror and ask if you can do better. Those were constant themes in the pieces I wrote at the Times.
I think one of the things that we are sorely missing is the ability to self-reflect in this country these days. And I want to ask your thoughts on something that I think is one of the most dangerous things that's kind of starting to happen, or is in the process of happening. And that's just the essentially discrediting the media. And now the media is essentially, if you're a Democrat, you don't like the right-wing media. And if you're a Republican, you don't like the left-leaning media. And Americans get their news from places that they want to hear the news in that way. And it is leading to this, it's just leading to the polarization even further of our society, because now the media is no longer a trusted source. What do you think about that?
So what it actually is, Sean, is it's people reverting back to way things were, in the 19th century and at the beginning of the 20th century. The media was very much that way, where you saw it, as my good friend Eric Dagans, the TV critic for NPR, always says, back in the day, we had people seeking confirmation instead of information.
Yeah.
And we've returned to that. And as a society, we're supposed to be evolving. And at one point, we saw the media as unbiased and intellectually honest. And we've gotten away from that. And the worst thing about that is it's hard to discern what's real and what's not, what's true and what's false. We're living in a nation where people are buying into two different narratives. You have people who believe the election of Joe Biden was fair and legitimate. And even today, you have people who believe that somehow the election was stolen from Donald Trump.
Not just fringe, and not just fringe. Huge swaths are buying into these two narratives. It used to be maybe just the two extremes. Huge populations believe in two different narratives.
Yeah, and it says in the Constitution, our goal is to create a more perfect union. How can we create a more perfect union when we can't agree on what's true? I mean, it's a fundamental issue. It's a core issue. When you examine everything else that's dividing us, it starts with what is true and what is not. And, just let me add, for all of my friends and colleagues back at the Times, all of my friends and colleagues who remain in the media, that job has never been more difficult. That job has never been more difficult for them. The business model has changed. The financial constraints on media outlets is greater than it's ever been. And it's more challenging for them to do the reporting, to get at the truth and present it in an intellectually honest way. They're still doing great work, but I think we need to keep in mind about just how difficult it is to meet the standards that were set during most of the 20th century.
It's just, I've seen it, a lot of, when I was in Tallahassee, a lot of my colleagues from the other side of the aisle refused to even acknowledge the Tampa Bay Times was a paper and was the newspaper in this area, because they considered it a left-wing media outlet. And however you feel about the media, it's a really bad place to be when, the most trusted paper in Tampa Bay is seen like that by certain segments of the population. And it's sad, because you said this, people don't know where to go. Even well-meaning people that want to get the news, where do they go? Because what they hear is that everything's bad. Fox is bad, CNN's bad, MS. Where does that person go other than go on the internet and do their own research for 2-3 hours in a day to see what's true? No one has time for that. No one's going to do that. They're just going to get it. And it's just hard, even for well-meaning, information-seeking people, to find it.
Yeah, and it's grown more difficult. My message to folks is always to be your own truth seeker and spend time watching, quote unquote, both sides. And then you try to discern what's real and what's not. And too often we have people who want to be told what to believe instead of figuring out what to believe for themselves. And, if we're to reverse and change the situation, we have to instill in this next generation the ability to critically think about different issues. I'm always hearing words like indoctrinate and brainwash. That's not what education is about. That's not what I believe education is about. I believe education is about and should be about teaching kids how to think critically, how to analyze different situations and draw their own conclusions and then defend those conclusions. Here's what I think, here's why. But, that begins with an honest examination of all the facts. And if you're only getting half the facts, if you're only getting half truths, you're not going to conduct that thorough and honest examination. And then there's going to be a problem.
And if you don't have all the facts, you will also be unable to view the other side as even reasonable. Because if you only have half the facts, you will look at them and say, well, that's just a totally unreasonable position. They're crazy. Yeah. Because you've only heard your side, and it affects a lot of things. Ernest, this is why I love your writing, brother. You're right. You're right and rational. And I hope we can reverse some of this, the stuff we're talking about. But I believe, unfortunately, I don't think people want to reverse it. I don't think enough people want to reverse it. And so I just hope we can get there before it's too late. But man, I appreciate you taking the time and joining. Thank you for all the good stuff you're doing at the United Way, and keep it up. And I'm sure we will be in touch, man. I appreciate this was a present, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, Sean, and you can have me back anytime. I would welcome the invitation, and keep doing your great things. Keep being a responsible and thought leader in our community. You're needed.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. All right. Welcome back to Vanguards of Democracy. This is Sean Shaw, your host, and I'm here today with Celeste Roberts. We had some technical difficulties, but we appreciate you sticking with us. Celeste is co-founded the Skills Center, which is one of the hidden treasures here in Tampa, and it's not going to be hidden for long. That's why we want to talk about it today. Celeste, thank you for joining us in spite of the technical issues. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Skills Center is about the best thing going in the youth development area. I just want you to kind of talk about what the Skills Center is, talk about how you founded it, why you founded it, and all that good stuff. I just want people to hear about it. The more people hear about it, the more they're going to understand why we all need to be supporting this treasure.
So thank you so much. So, the Skills Center really was, it was founded in 2007 with myself, Chris Ward, and John Arroyo. And it is a strategy from a Department of Labor grant called Youth Opportunity that was here in Tampa 2005. And what an amazing program, very effective, really changed lives. And when it came to an end, because it was federal, we wanted to continue to do the work. I think we could have stayed and worked for Youth Opportunity forever. Like, that's how effective and life-changing it was. That was a $24 million endeavor. It was a collaborative approach, and we did not have $24 million. And so we really set out to figure out of all the things that Youth Opportunity did, again, it was funded through the Department of Labor. So it was really focused on the end results, right? Placing kids getting them back in school, graduation, placement in college, employment, vocational training, the military. So, but the way that we went about it was very different. And I've been a not-for-profit for 29, almost 30 years. And I'd never seen a program set up this way. So we were one of 36 in the country. Again, Tampa received $24 million. And we had our outcomes. How we got to our outcomes was really up to us. And I think that's what's very unique, based upon your community, based upon the kids, right? based upon the environment, we had the opportunity to kind of craft out what our youth centers would look like as we move towards these common goals. And that really was what was very unique about youth opportunity. One of the strategies that we utilized was sports. It was the hook. It was how we got young people to come into places where they really weren't interested in coming. And it also was the opportunity for us to use sports to, again, to hook them, but then to require of them an hour of their time before they could participate in sports. And so this is the way in which we recruited. This is the way we continue to keep our kids engaged. And this is really the piece that the three of us thought was very unique, in the sense that no one else was using sports-based youth development in our community in the way in which we wanted to intentionally utilize it to create change. And so that was the piece that we selected out of the entire program. And we created an organization out of it called the Skills Center, been around for 15 years. And our name was always, our vision was always in our name, the Skills Center. We didn't have a center for a very long time, but we knew we always wanted a location. And we wanted that location to be in East Tampa. We started in East Tampa. We started at the Belmont Heights Boys and Girls Club in the evening time. From there, we offered our services through partnership. We leveraged, we bartered with the city of Tampa Parks and Rec, with school district facilities, until 2016, when we leased the facility. And we had, at that time, a facility of our own for 4 years. But we wanted to return back to East Tampa, and very specifically, we had a location that we always wanted, and that was the location next to Middleton High School. We stepped out on faith, like we did when we started the Skills Center, and just said, let's go and see if the owner would sell us the property. And from there, let's acquire the dollars, the skill set, the expertise that we need to really come back and reimagine youth opportunity. So that's really what we're trying to do. We've loved that program so much. The young people today are about 38 and 40. And what I love about it is their children will not see poverty. Their children are, because their parents are in a better place. And so their children won't see the barriers that they faced, right, in East Tampa, in Sulphur Springs, and Tampa Heights, all of these communities that really have barriers, to put barriers on our kids, right? And it's not the kids' fault. It's just simply the environment in which the kids are being raised. But we feel like it's a very successful model. We saw it, we can see the lives that we changed. But nationally, independent evaluation came out that said that youth opportunity, the model of youth opportunity, was very successful. We already knew that, right? But to come out on a national level, that was all we really needed to say, let's do it. And so here we are, 15 years later. We secured the facility that we always wanted. And I always say God is good. And now we are renovating that property. It's 35,000 square feet. And then we're adding on 20,000. So when we're done, it'll be a 55,000 square feet facility that will focus on leveling the playing field in education, health, and workforce training for young people.
I want you to keep talking. I love this. Talk more about specifically how it works. What if I'm a parent and I've got a child and I'm listening to this? What does the program really, what's my child going to go through? What activities and why and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So, I think this model is very unique because it's a collaborative model. And basically the premise of it is that no one organization can do it all by themselves, right? And so when we reimagine youth opportunity, it was initially with the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, CDC of Tampa, the Urban League, the School District, and the Workforce Alliance. As we reimagine it, we're thinking a little bit different. Again, we don't have $24 million still. However, what we do have is partnerships. And then we really have learned how to leverage our resources. And so we asked 4 other organizations to come into this space with us, to partner with us, to be our core partners. We all compete against each other as non-for-profits, we go after the same $10,000, we go after the same $100,000, right? Could we work smarter together? Could we collaborate, right? And I've partnered, the Skill Center has partnered with these organizations probably for the last 10 years. So I asked them if they would come in with us. They said yes. So from there, everyone serves the same population. Everyone has a different expertise. And that's how we get all the programming that we can offer within the facility. What we don't offer, then the next group of the ring for this collaborative is to look at other youth serving organizations. From there, we partner with social service organizations, funders, the school district, any type of system, foster care system, juvenile justice, universities, corporations. Like, we need all these players to work on these common goals so that we can move our kids out of poverty, right? So that they can have a livable wage. I had to sum it all up. We need our kids to be able to have a livable wage. And if we can get them to that, then we could eliminate poverty. So the way that it would work is that, say a parent brings in their child, there would be an intake process. And in that intake process, we're looking at 4 things. We want to look at their educational level, like what's going on with you in school. Or if you're not in school, we want to know that, right? We want to know how you're doing health-wise. We want to know what your skill set is, right? And then we want to know what's going on at home. What is your home life situation? We believe like the education, the health in the home environment affects the long-term workforce development skill set. So we have to address all of these issues. There's an individualized plan for that particular kid, right? So most programs come in and they move kids together. All the kids come and then they move from program to program. They stay maybe 2 to 6 o'clock. This program doesn't work like that. This program is individualized. It is what a young person needs. Now, there will be required programming classes, right? An example of that would be if their educational level is low, then you're going to have to get academic support, right? If you are a college, say a 10th grader and you want to go to college, maybe that's college prep for you, right? So it's different. If you're out of school, your goal is to get into a GED class, right? So there's some requirements to that. And then there's all these electives. The electives is all the things that kids want, the attractor to the facility, the sports, the different sports, the esports, the coding, the robotics, right? The virtual reality, all of these fun things that kids want to be a part of, they get access to that once they give us what's required, right? And then the other unique piece about this model is that we call them youth development specialists. It's our frontline staff. It is their responsibility to go out and recruit. And while this program would serve the entire county, we know we cannot serve all kids. We're focusing on about 5 to 6 zip codes specifically in the greatest need. That's 3, 6, 10, 12, 5, 7, 4, and 3. We will recruit from those areas. We have limited transportation, but we have transportation, so we can offer some assistance there. And our goal is for these individuals to go out and recruit in places where kids are, in schools, right? Foster care, juvenile justice, right? In the streets, wherever, in the parks, wherever they are, and then to bring them into our services. And then they follow the kid. And that's the piece that's usually missed in youth development. Like, this is a person who is going to recruit you. They're going to get you enrolled in the program, and then they're going to follow you, support you, motivate you, correct you, find you, whatever it takes, right? And that's the part. The goal is to be able to support, to make sure that each person has a caring adult assigned to them, right? And this is the person where we can show them how to develop relationships, and really how to have this grit, this push through, this resiliency, right? This hope, like that it can be done. Like, let us trust the process is what we always say. Trust the process. Let us take you through. And when you get to that other side, you will see that it's possible, right? So that's really the piece of most programs. Youth development programs don't have that piece. And so a kid will come in and then they're just getting involved, right? What's assigned to them, that's mandatory. That is going to help them to overcome some of the barriers that they have. And then all these other pieces that they can engage in. I think at the end of the day, all that we do is to help them to acquire a higher skill set, whether that's academically, right? Definitely in workforce, but not just attaining a skill set in workforce. It really is to expose them to careers, right? Kids love basketball. They love sports. They love esports. You can work around these sports. You can have a viable job and not be the player, right? And so how do we show kids all of those careers, right? How do we connect them to high demand careers in our city? The other day, I heard the mayor say the number one career that companies are looking for is software engineers. How do we start working with our kids and exposing them to what that looks like? What is that, right? So, because if that's a high demand job and it just comes naturally to you anyway, why not consider that as a viable solution, right? And so, that's really the way in which we're going to engage young people and really just bring them in. End of the day, we like to have fun, but we are serious about creating the pipeline and moving our kids out to, graduation, on-time graduation, getting them to prep for college, vocational training, full-time employment, or the military. That is when we can get our kids placed in those areas. That's how we know we're doing our job, because they're on their way, right, to that livable wage.
I love it all. And I have never spoken less on my podcast than this episode, but that's good because I want this to get out. Not enough people know how amazing what you're doing is over there. And I love what you said about collaborative efforts, because a lot of people in the community see a lot of different duplication and not efficient delivery of necessary things. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things. Right. And I love the collaboration. What's the age of the kids in the program? And go ahead.
We're going to focus on middle school, high school, and young adults. So that probably about 11 up to about 21. CDC is trying to get me to 24. So we might go to 24. But the goal really is to be able to create a pipeline with middle school kids, right? And then as they come to middle school to high school, we're ready to, to get them out. And then for those kids who are young adults, you think of like a 19-year-old, they might be unemployed or underemployed, right? They're coming to us for training, right? And once we get them trained, they're off, right? So again, a young person might be with us for a very small time versus a 11-year-old who might be with us for the entire, 6 years with us.
What's the time of the program during the day?
So our facility will be open at 7 a.m. and it's going to stay open until 11. And different things will happen within that time. After school is going to be our biggest program time, right? But for those young people who are out of school, they can come to us during the day. Right. And then we also see our facility not just being for our program. We sit in the middle of a community. Right. We want our facility to be fully utilized. So we see people from within the community using the facility. I know a senior facility is coming, but this facility has great space to have like group aerobics, right? Group fitness. The gym is big enough. It's 3 courts. You can walk the gym, right? You can walk inside and get physical activity, right? I see different people utilizing inside the facility as an event space. I see the community utilizing that event space, right? So the hours that we're open is not always driven by our programming. It is through partnership, right? There's so many things we think of when we think about giving kids access and opportunity, because that's really what this building is. Our goal is to give you access and opportunity. It's up for the kids to take advantage of it, but we must be able to give them access and opportunity to things that can really better their lives. But when I think about also like kids who attend charter schools, they might not be in our facility, but their charter school does not have a gym. So if they don't have a gym, they can't have access to physical activity, sports. They can't have access to that. So I see our facility being used in that way as well, where we can give other organizations access to be able to build up their programming for young people. And that's simply by opening up our gym and allowing charter schools to utilize it.
I can't believe we are almost to the end here, but this was really good. I want to ask you, do you utilize volunteers and people from the community to assist with, do they come in and maybe talk to the kids or talk about certain careers or help with certain things? How can the community help in addition to giving you money? We're going to get to that, but how can the community help if on a hands-on way?
Yeah, so, we're coming into this facility in the fall, first quarter of next year, right? And so we need volunteers because we need our kids to be able to see individuals that look like them and don't look like them, but might have the career or the background that they have, right? So as a mentor, as a tutor, as a coach, events, right? Activities. I mean, there's so many volunteer opportunities that will happen. And I think it really does take our community overall for all of us to be able to work together, to collaborate. We can get so much more done versus, being individual in our stands, right? We all have shared values when it comes to our young people. We want them to be successful, right? Let's partner together. Let's make this happen. I think it's so doable for us.
I agree. Put my name down. I'd be happy to volunteer in some capacity. We'll figure out how. I think that's super important. Talk about, as we wrap up here, is there a capital campaign for the building or how we doing that? I know you're happy I'm asking this.
Well, you said, is there? Yes, there is a capital campaign. So this project, once we're all said and done, is going to be about $20 million, right? We have secured the building and the building behind it. We purchased that in April of last year. The building behind it, if I might just say, it houses 13 small businesses. It has nothing to do with the work that we do at this for young people. But what's important about it is that the income from that property, we are able to pour it into the front building, which is the skills center, right? So it allows us to sustain ourselves. It allows us to address emerging needs. And then it also allows us to address gaps in funding, right? So it helps us to sustain ourselves. The renovation and the construction is about $14 million. We have about a little less than 5 million to go, and we're there, right? And so we've secured more than 90% of this, of our project. We do need help in the remaining, let's just say 5 million. We need help in the remainder of that amount. And so that's our capital campaign. That's the amount that we're asking the community to help us to fill. Like that's,
are you having any events or things to assist with that? Or is this kind of a, if you got something, help out? But is there any event that will be tied to the capital campaign that community might want to come to?
Yeah, so we haven't released it yet because we just opened up our capital campaign at the end of the year. But the goal is to be able to host different events starting in March and moving all the way through November as we raise money, as we complete the project and raise the rest of the money that we need. So we'll start to share that. But the Skills Center website is the best place probably to keep up to date and really to get more information on the collaborative, right? And so it's the Skills Center .org is our website.
Celeste, I wish we had more time to talk about this, but you've done a great job of setting the stage. And I want to offer one, obviously I'll volunteer, but two, I want to offer when you have something that you would like the community to know about, I'd love for you to come back on and we can talk more about how we can all help, because this is something we all talk about. We all talk about we want our young people to have more opportunity, more exposure, and we want them to be able to not suffer because they may be in a certain zip code. That we all want to make sure that they have equality of opportunity. Right. And so let us help you. Let me help you. When you need to come on, tell me and we'll get you on. But I want to tell you, thank you for what you're doing. This is exactly the kind of means-tested, result-oriented program that you need. Not just kind of, I think this will work. Let's do this. I like that you're data-driven, that you're results-driven, and you are putting assets and efforts behind things that already work, and you're being collaborative. I want to tell you thank you. We appreciate all you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and share our project. Again, we really do feel like it's all of our responsibility to really help our kids, and we're doing our part, right? This is our part, our contribution, but we really do look forward to working with everyone within our community.
Community needs to do their part. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
Celeste Roberts, thank you with the Skills Center. We appreciate it. Next time, we're going to talk more about maybe your personal background and how you got to be such a star here in this space. But we're running out of time. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining Vanguards of Democracy. We will see you next time.
Vanguards of Democracy is funded and produced by Vanguard Attorneys, a local personal injury law firm serving the Tampa Bay area with ingenuity and an indomitable work ethic. Don't forget to follow Vanguards of Democracy on YouTube or download episodes on your favorite podcast streaming services like iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And lastly, we're excited to announce that we're launching our new landing page, www.vanguardsofdemocracy.com, where you'll be able to ask questions, recommend guests or topics, and stay up to date with news and announcements. It'll be great. If you know how to bookmark a website, this is the one that'll make it worth it. Thank you.